to our latest episode of Unpack, and welcome to 2019. It is lovely to see you. Today, we're going to talk about 2019, and we're jumping on the bandwagon of trends and our predictions.
Yeah. We're going to talk about 4 trends that we've seen lately that we think are relevant.
Yeah, and give our opinions on them. First, how are your holidays?
They were pretty good.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I have a remarkable ability to switch off when I'm on holiday. So I was like, holiday.
I drank pina coladas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did.
That's good.
We made pina coladas last year.
Yeah, we did.
So you can check out that episode.
Okay,
Yeah.
what are we going to talk about first?
First, we're going to talk about long-form videos. Okay, well, first let's define long-form. So I feel like people have different definitions of it. I've heard it defined as something vague, like anything longer than what traditionally would be put on the distribution platform you're talking about. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's anything longer than like 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's funny that we call long form anything longer than 3 minutes.
I know,
because
still so short.
Yeah, it is. It's really short. And if you look at TV, 30 minutes is short form on TV. Long form is, well, I guess anything over an hour or something like that. And I think what I see online is people sort of thinking about online video the way that they've always thought about broadcast video. It doesn't have to be short if it's good.
Yeah.
And it's getting better.
I do think for us, for video agencies, that the way we're going to see that shift is like traditionally, like brief after brief, we get the 2-minute hero video, and then these other deliverables that are designed for certain platforms. So the 60-second, 30-second, 15-second, 6-second. But that, I think we'll continue to see that evolve, but the 2-minute is dead. I think the 2 minutes dead. I think that's going to be replaced by a long form that is as long as it needs to be, as long as it keeps engagement.
Yep.
Issue of quality in 2019. I've heard some people argue that quality is going to nosedive because there's going to be such a high volume of video online, and then I've heard some people say that it's going to skyrocket. It's going to be great. What do you think?
I'm going to go in the middle somewhere.
That's too safe.
I'm going to say nosedive, then recovery.
Okay, yeah.
I think naturally it occurs in most industries where once you democratize something like video, everyone can do it. It opens up the ability for a lot of different players, a lot of different creators. And that means you just get this influx. But then everyone has to try harder.
Yep.
Like there's more competition for the viewing.
Yep. So LinkedIn would be a really good example of this, that they added native video in 2018. And so you're seeing a lot of people experiment with that right now in B2B environment. But I feel like people are still playing with it and figuring it out, like us, how meta. So I see people using it for like recruitment tools, for like inspirational messaging. But I think 2019 is when people are going to get their heads wrapped around how to do LinkedIn well. And that'll be really interesting. And I'm cautiously optimistic. Like you said, I think people are going to see good stuff. They're going to be inspired by that, hopefully, and make even better stuff.
Yeah. And I think that as it evolves, it will be really interesting to see what B2B video becomes, because I feel like it's almost this other genre. That's what's great about online video, and that's what's interesting about the quality. So if something is influential but doesn't look good or doesn't feel polished, is it still quality?
Yeah. The New York Times piece you sent me about where they're sort of looking at the making of a pop song was a really good example, where they basically took like Skype interviews and created these pieces that are really well done, but it had nothing to do with the production quality. It's just that they were edited well, there was good motion graphics, the interviews were done well.
Like this idea that online video is already really good is perhaps a bit of a fallacy. Like we're not losing very much by moving forward. It used to be that if you made a 5-minute video about a guy chopping wood, if it looked great, people would watch it because it was somewhat unique. But I think
it's not enough anymore.
It's not enough.
No.
And so that competition, I think, is just going to say, well, do you know what? Guy chopping wood, maybe that's not the best format. Maybe it was good because it was unique, not unique anymore. Yeah, so trend number 3, let's talk about Facebook versus Instagram. I know that you are a Facebook hater.
I hate. Delete Facebook. I was on that train immediately.
So let's take an unbiased view of Facebook versus Instagram by leading with you.
Okay. Look, despite my hatred of Facebook, I'm not naive. I understand that it is still the most important and most powerful platform, social media. And so we can't ignore that environment. But I think that it will be interesting to see in 2019. I mean, in 2018, Facebook took a lot of hits with their data breaches, Mark Zuckerberg not doing a very good job at apologizing for things, how they have played out in election cycles. So in 2019, I think it'll be interesting to see how they keep up with that. So for instance, in America's election cycle, what part will they play? Will they get a handle on their breaches? Will they get a handle on fake accounts? If they don't, I do think that audiences will start to jump on the bandwagon with me of delete Facebook. That's my optimistic view of humanity. I could be wrong. Their stories, it's a joke. Nobody's gonna. That's dead.
Yeah.
That's dead.
Okay, so just to try to debunk what you're saying about stories, because I was interested to see whether this was like a phenomenon that me being 39 just haven't quite got onto yet.
We could just be old.
Yeah, I stopped watching my Facebook feed when all my friends had babies, so
Fair enough.
I don't go in there very much. But I did look across my Facebook group to see who is making stories. And I'm not going to say how many friends I have, but let's just assume there's lots.
Of course. So many.
One story.
One story. Out of many.
I think that if you look at your friends group, you probably get an idea of what the general population in Australia is actually doing.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone in Australia is really using Facebook stories.
Right.
Of a certain age group, probably. But apparently it's really big in Asia and parts of Europe, where Messenger is a much bigger part of the communication landscape.
Right. Well, okay, so to go to the Instagram side, I do think Instagram for brands will be increasingly relevant. And there's been a lot of talk about IGTV and whether it's like relevant or whether or not it's going to go to the wayside in 2019. They launched it in 2018. I think Instagram is going to invest a lot in that part of the platform, and I think it's going to do well.
It makes sense that I don't think Instagram's failed at anything that they've released since their inception. Maybe they've done some tests behind the scenes, so IGTV, but I think they just made a mistake by making IGTV separate.
A separate app?
Yeah, and they've linked the two in the last 6 months so that it's
not very
more
well.
obvious. Yeah. And if you look on IGTV, even the big channels, like there's some places doing it really well. Like National Geographic do really well because cute pictures of animals are easy to do in vertical.
Yeah.
And they look great,
Yeah.
But then you look at other places like Netflix, they started off with like this hour-long, weird, long-form piece of, I forget what his name was, from Riverdale. The guy from Riverdale, anyway, eating a hamburger for an hour. But since then, 6 months, and they've got barely 16 videos.
But see, I don't think those huge brands are going to be the drivers of that increase. I think it's going to be the really small content creators, like the ones that are like story stars or things like that, and they're going to start to push that. Probably incentivized by Instagram, like paid, but
Yeah, and I think until they get monetization into IGTV, because on YouTube, creators have a natural the format works for them.
Yeah.
You can have a group of people in a landscape video on YouTube, and you can host a podcast, you can host a discussion like we're having here.
Yeah.
Try and do that same thing on IGTV and Longform. It is really difficult.
It's hard.
You can do it,
but
I actually think it's weird that it's called Longform because most of the videos that work really well on IGTV are under 3 minutes.
Which I think why IGTV is best suited for a really good host who's doing a very targeted activity or talking about a very specific thing.
Yeah, it's personal.
Yeah. Okay, next up. So do you think we'll see a rise in 2019 of in-house production teams in brands or not so much?
I think that there's definitely been a rise for the last couple of years. In-house production has sort of been a hot topic. Last year, I was looking up, Heidi Grant bought a majority share in, I think it's SO Productions here in Melbourne. I know that Zero do most of their video production in-house. NAB do a lot of video production. I think that what we'll probably see in 2019 is probably a slowing down of people putting in-house production teams in, and a rationalisation of how much those resources actually cost and what the benefit of it is. And they'll look to engagement this year, because there's so much more video content. Just because you're producing more doesn't mean you're getting more.
I think we'll see a slowing down of complete production teams being taken in-house, but I do think we'll see an uptick in segments of the production process. So for instance, I think we'll see an increase in like post-production being taken in-house, but the rest of it, no. I think brands are starting to learn just how much it costs to justify keeping an entire production team. And I think what happens is, to justify that cost, you end up having to produce a lot of content, regardless of whether or not your audience wants it. And I don't think they want that high of a volume, because then you see a decrease in quantity ultimately. So, and I also think brands understand the value of, like you said, an outsider's perspective, objectivity, not only like for creative ideas, but also objectivity in like assessing, you know, how a brand is doing with their strategy and with their content. Because if you have an in-house person as the only sort of voice, then you're getting a really subjective thing where somebody's job is at stake, somebody's salary is at stake. Whereas, yeah, we might lose that client if we piss somebody off with our opinion, but like we have other clients, so it's not gonna, you know, we're not gonna lose our bread and butter.
Yeah, and the benefit, I guess, ends up sounding like a sales pitch or something, but the benefit of an external team is that every time a client engages us, they not only get the learnings of the last project we did with them, they get the learnings of the last project we did with every other client. And then, if you look at the type of crew we put together, it's exponential. It seems like it makes sense for a certain level of content to be done in-house, because sometimes you just need to get that internal communication out, and video does work better. But it would be, I think you also see a rationalization as people kind of go, you know what, we produced like 50 more videos last year, but do we get more engagement?
Right, what's the ROI for that?
Yeah, and how much did that cost us internally?
That's right. All right, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you so much for watching. We hope that was useful in some form. If you have an opinion, throw it in the comments. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
See ya. Maybe we could get coffee sponsors. Or like, you know, or cup sponsors. Today we're drinking out of Husky.
Husky.